All right. We're back. Chainlink Sports. We got a really, really big guest today. One of the most respected coaches in baseball, not even in the MLB, but across the world. This guy has reached across the globe here with his coaching expertise and really just a baseball lifer. We got Darren Fenster from the Boston Red Sox. Played at Rutgers, All-American, played a few years with the Royals. Now he's in the coaching. He's doing a lot of great things coaching-wise, and we'll get into all that. But Darren, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. I wish we didn't have time to connect like this, but this is the reality that the majority of the world is in right now. So, good to be with you and good to talk some baseball here when we don't have baseball actually out on the field.
Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. So like I said, you're a baseball lifer. So talk to me about your years in college and kind of how your playing career in college helped you transition into professional baseball.
So, as you mentioned, I played at Rutgers University for a guy by the name of Fred Hill, who he was in his 60s, I think, when I played for him in the late 90s. And he was every bit of, that old school type coach who was very fundamentally driven. There was a lot of accountability. There was a lot of discipline within the program. And, I think going into Rutgers before my freshman year, I obviously probably had a decent fundamental base of ability, but he was really the one who took that ability and continued to help me grow, but also really helped me learn the game and the little things that it takes to be successful as a player. And then when all the players are doing all those little things, and that's the approach of an entire team, then the team, has no choice but to be successful. And, my playing experience obviously really set not just me on a good course as a player, but hindsight 2020, it really set the foundation for me as a coach.
Right. So you broke into a professional baseball, and then you had a knee injury, right? That cut your career short.
Yeah.
So then once that happened, kind of talk to me about that, and then how you just kind of decided to make the transition from playing to coaching.
In 2000, so I struggled to get out of A-ball, and I spent parts of 3 years in Wilmington in the Carolina League, and it wasn't until my last year there, which was in 2004, when I really started to put a lot of things together as a hitter. And I had kind of transitioned from being a shortstop to second baseman to being a utility player, where because my bat came along that last year, I actually turned myself into an everyday utility player, like a Ben Zobrist type, where you're playing every day at a different position each day. And that 2004, where I finished in Double-A, earned me an invite to Major League Camp in 2005. And that was really the first time when I was playing with and against the guys who I had been seeing on TV, and that I had the confidence that, I could really do this. And with a week left in camp, I jumped for a ball, came down, knee went one way and the leg went the other. And I knew that it was serious. I hoped that it was just like a sprain or something, but the MRI turns out it's a torn ACL. My year is over before it even begins. So at no point did I ever think that was going to be the end of my career. So I went and had surgery, and I was living in Arizona rehabbing the entire year, and went back to spring training in 2006 while I was medically cleared. I did not come back the same as I was previous to the injury. And I had thought that the organization was going to give me some time and extended spring training to get back to the level that I was at previously. And they had other plans, and, some guys who were below me kind of passed me on the depth chart. And with a day or two left of spring training, I wound up getting released, and it wasn't even really on my radar about, going from that close to being in the big leagues to not having a job. It really caught me by surprise. And I went back home to New Jersey, and after speaking with my parents, Coach Hill was probably the first person who I called, and he then presented me with an opportunity to join his staff basically saying, hey, would you be interested if I created a position for you to be a coach? Because I think you'd be pretty good. And at that point, I had no plan B. I had no interest in anything else. And I jumped on the staff in April of 2006. The group that was at Rutgers at the time, it was highlighted by Todd Frazier, who was a sophomore, but there were probably 10 or 12 other guys who wound up playing professional baseball. And I had a relationship with a lot of them because I would work out there in the off season. So those guys really made me feel like I could have an impact on them as players and as people in the same way that, so many others had an impact on me. And, as they say, that's what really kind of spurned me into coaching without ever really wanting to be a coach. That group in 2006 and 2007 at Rutgers really helped me take to the profession really quickly because of the way that they took to me.
Right. And then, so since like you were still kind of like a young guy, when you kind of got to Rutgers, and like you said, you kind of knew the guys because you worked out there, it's your alma mater, but what about coaching came easy to you when you first started? And then what were some things that you kind of had to learn and you kind of struggled with at first?
I wouldn't say any of it came easy to me in the sense that I didn't think that I was a coach. I thought in previous off seasons, just the culture that Coach Hill had built at Rutgers with guys coming back, every single winter, it was all these guys who were getting ready for spring training, who were coming back from their own professional seasons. And we would just talk about the things that we did in professional baseball that, guys at Rutgers at that level could really benefit from. So I really went into coaching with that same sort of mindset of I was still a player in my mind, just telling all these guys what I did as a player and what worked. And so, I think it really took some time. And when I say time, probably like a year plus to really move on from that mindset of I'm a player to, all right, I'm a coach. And in the process of doing that, you realize that not everybody sees the game the way that you do. And that's a really, really hard thing because this is, I only had the perspective of a player, and the things that came really naturally to me, or the parts of the game that I thought were, very, very basic, like what weren't even on a lot of these players' radar. And that was a frustrating point for me because I thought it was so easy because it was something that came easy for me. And
Right.
so once I realized that players did not view the game in the same lens that I did, it allowed me to, take a step out of my own box and realize, okay, we may have to go back to some of the basic building blocks without assuming that these guys really know everything. And once I was able to do that, I thought that was a big step at the early stages.
Yeah. So you start off at Rutgers, and then how did your job at the Red Sox kind of present to you? Because I believe you were the AA manager for a little bit, or you're one of the coaches on the a AA level.
Yeah,
And
I spent some time at rookie ball, A ball, and AA as a manager.
right, and then now I hope I have my facts right. You're the base running coordinator or the infield coach?
The outfield and base running coordinator for the whole organization. Yeah.
Gotcha. So like, how has that been kind of, so, you start off at Rutgers, and then now you've kind of built yourself up to, a pretty prominent role for a Major League Baseball club. What has that been like, kind of taking those steps?
Well, it was really all a progression, and not a progression in the sense that, hey, I want to do A, B, and C. It was just when I was at Rutgers. So, like, just to give you a little bit of an understanding of like the scope of how big a major league organization is, we probably have 200 people that work in baseball operations in some way, shape, or form. So that goes everywhere from major league coaching staff to minor league coaching staff to administrators to scouts to analysts. All these guys who are all really working towards the same thing to help our major league team win. And so one organization has 200 jobs. In college, we had a head coach, we had a full-time assistant, we had a part-time assistant, and we had a director of operations, and we had a volunteer. And the part-time guy and the volunteer were never in the office. So that left 3 guys basically to organize the entire operation, from not just the coaching side of things, but also the administrative side, the recruiting side, the academic side, like all these things come together. So when you're coaching in college, you have to do a ton of different things where maybe 25% of the job is actually on the field. So the experience of having my hand in so many different elements of a college program really helped me, it prepared me to dive into professional baseball only having a fraction of that responsibility.
Right.
And my first job was as a hitting coach in A-ball. And I was just so excited to have a job with the Red Sox. And I didn't think of anything beyond being a hitting coach. And at the end of my first year as a hitting coach, my boss approached me and said, "Hey, we're going to have a managerial opening in rookie ball next year, and we think you're a good fit for it. Do you want to do it?" And I hadn't even thought about it at that point. So I took that, and that, I was like, okay, cool. I'm a rookie ball manager, and I just wanted to be the best rookie ball manager I could be. And then a year later, I was in A-ball, and now I'm just trying to be the best A-ball manager that I could be. And then the AA job opened up, and while I was the AA manager, this job, the coordinator job, was presented to me, and none of these jobs did I ever really pursue. But the fact that I didn't worry about my next job and I was so focused on the job that I was doing at hand is what prepared me for that next job. Like I'm an infielder by trade, and I'm responsible for developing outfielders for the Boston Red Sox, for our entire minor league system. And my ability to take that role on is a byproduct of just diving into whatever job that I had at the time. And even though this one was very much outside of my normal comfort zone, knowing that the way that I approached my job for the previous 7 years at that point, I think made my bosses comfortable with them offering me a position that I wasn't necessarily an expert on, but it's something that, has really helped me become even more well-rounded as a coach.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So we've established, your kind of career as a coach, and because you are so well known, and because you're very highly regarded within your own organization and across all of MLB. Did you lose sound there for a second? I think I might have turned off my mic.
No, I'm good.
Oh, you're good? Okay. So then now you are a in-demand speaker at conventions, and you do speak with coaches and other players. So is there a main point that you try to get across to coaches, or is there like a common theme that they might ask you, or is it just kind of general knowledge and advice across the board?
It really depends on the event. Sometimes I'll go to a convention or a coaching clinic, and the organizers will ask me to speak about something very specific. Like, for instance, I did one a few weeks ago for USA Baseball, and they specifically asked me to talk about base running. So I put something together on the base running side of things. Sometimes it's as specific as the details of breaking down a double play, and sometimes it's as broad as how to establish culture and leadership within a team. And so a lot of times it's a mix between something that really is in my interest, in a certain point in time, versus what the people who are bringing me in to speak are really interested in learning about.
Okay. So final thing I want to ask you, and I know something you're very proud of and something that you're very active with, is you're the founder and CEO of Coach Your Kids. So I want you to kind of tell me what that's all about, and then why it's important to you and why you started that.
Coaching Your Kids is basically like an initiative that was born out of social media, in the sense that probably in 2013, I had just joined Twitter, and I was not, really into social media. And I still to this day, I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. But I saw a lot of people on the baseball side of things who had really big followings, who were basically building their brand. They didn't work for a team. Some of them had good information, but they were pushing out like their beliefs on, say, hitting or pitching or whatever. And they were in the process of them trying to build their brand and stick out to sound smarter than everybody else, they refuse to be challenged in the sense of having a constructive discussion about two opposing views. And they would just, downgrade something that made them look like their way wasn't the best way or it wasn't the only way. And that really frustrated me in the sense of, for instance, if there was a pitcher and somebody's out there saying that, hey, I'm going to help you throw 90 or 95. And if you can't throw 90 miles an hour, you're never going to play at the next level. Right. So I just envisioned, a kid who might've been in high school who could only throw 82 miles an hour, reading that, thinking that, oh man, like I have no future in this game. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Does that mean that the kid, that everybody's going to be a big leaguer? Of course not. But there are so many different levels of the game, and there are so many different ways to be successful, that the idea that one way is the only way was a complete fallacy, and it really bugged me. And so I started challenging these people. And then I realized at that point I had worn a number of different hats, from the things that I accomplished as a player in college and professionally to, being a college recruiter, to being a professional hitting coach, to being a professional manager, and now being a coordinator. I had a perspective that, with so many different hats, that I felt like I could just share my experiences and just be very straightforward with pushing content about every side of the game on how many different ways people could be successful. And I think just on a very grassroots level, people appreciated that, and the fact that, generally speaking, I didn't, look down upon people who disagreed with me in a respectful way. And, I also started really just writing a lot of articles and being involved with a handful of blogs. And in the process of doing that, just my following kind of grew organically. And then all of a sudden, these different organizations start picking up on my blog, and they asked me to do some other things. And so that kind of opened up other opportunities to work with organizations, whether it be to work with, a private organization's coaches, or to actually run some sort of a class or a clinic with some of its players, whatever it is. But, all of this has been stemmed from the idea that there are a lot of ways to be really, really good in this game. And I'm just trying to expose everybody to the idea that, hey, just because you might not be gifted in one area doesn't mean that you can't have a career or a life in the game.
Right. And you guys have also traveled overseas to run camps and clinics too. So how did that come about, and what was that whole experience like?
So, I'm fascinated by international baseball, where, you might be in a country where you don't speak a lick of the native language, but you have this common connection with the people of this game and this baseball. And when they see the energy that you have in teaching the game and is helping other players, you can speak. I call it speaking the language of baseball. And
yeah.
You don't need to be able to necessarily, actually use words, but, the body language, I think, really helps connect. So, I've been fortunate to go to Taiwan each of the last 7 years to run a camp for the country's top 40 players with a couple other guys from the U.S. I've done some stuff in Sweden. I've been to the Dominican. I've been to Canada. I ran a coaching clinic in Kuwait, of all places, for the country's only Little League. So it's been a really cool experience that has allowed me to not only just share what I've learned over the years, but also, it's forced me to cater to a number of different types of players and coaches, where, with the Red Sox, I'm working with the best players in the world. When I go to some of these events, you're talking about, for instance, in Kuwait, where sometimes kids don't even have gloves. So you're teaching the building blocks, the foundational skills of the game. And you have to figure out a way to get to that group in the same way that you're able to impact, the other levels that you teach. So those experiences have really allowed me to learn how to adapt to the audience, with respect to presenting a message in a way that audience can grasp it and take something home with them. where it's not like, hey, when I'm there for 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it is, they get better, but then I leave and nothing sticks. It's very much, planting seeds so that after I leave, they could take whatever it is that we discussed over the course of that time, for years to come.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's definitely a great thing you're doing. And anybody who's listening to this and wants to know more, Darren, you're on Twitter, and what's your Twitter handle? At Darren Fenster, at Darren underscore Fenster?
At Coach Your Kids.
Coach Your Kids. And then you also have a website, so check him out, Coach Your Kids. You can learn all about it. Darren, you're doing great things, and I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
You got it, Nico. Yep.
All
Thanks,
right,
man.
signing off.